Tonight, the governor's race is in its final weekend push, with candidates spreading out across the state campaigning. The latest polls show there are three frontrunners, with Democrats emerging as the top two. NBC4's Tracey Leong spoke to NBC4 political expert Fernando Guerra to break down what has shifted for the voters. Tracy?
Yeah, Jonathan and Kathy, the latest polls suggest the governor's race looks very different compared to a few months ago. As the field narrows and Democratic voters consolidate around fewer candidates, there's now a possibility Californians could see two Democrats on the November ballot.
The California governor's race is tightening. According to the latest Emerson College poll, Javier Becerra is leading the crowded field with 28%, followed by Tom Steyer with 22%. Steve Hilton with 21%, Chad Bianco with 12%, and Katie Porter with 5%.
The big surprise, and something that we kind of saw start to happen, is that this is the first poll that really has two Democrats, first and second.
Loyola Marymount University political science professor Fernando Guerra says the shift is being driven by undecided voters making their choices in the final days of the campaign, a contrast to earlier in the race when support was more divided.
So what has clearly happened is undecided voters, mostly Democrats and independents, have started coalescing around Javier Becerra and Steyer. Very few Republican undecideds. That's why they led the field, because Democrats were so many undecideds.
Candidates spent the final weekend campaigning across the state, trying to win over the undecided voters and urging supporters to head to the polls. As we head into Election Day, Guerra says a final decision is unlikely on Tuesday night, but it's not unusual, especially for a race this close.
It doesn't matter. It does not make any political, policy, or governance impact on anything if we find out on Wednesday or Thursday instead of Tuesday. I know we are an instant gratification society, but it's so much better to make sure that we do the count correct than to rush it.
Guerra did emphasize for voters to get their ballots in as soon as possible to a mailbox or to a vote center, getting them in today or tomorrow instead of waiting until Tuesday to avoid long lines or later processing.
So these polls are interesting, right? They really only survey a small subset of the population. So how sure are we that what happens on Tuesday is reflected in this poll?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people can be skeptical of polls. I talked to Guerra. He said about 1,000 people were questioned for this. And he said compared to what we saw 20, 30 years ago, these polls are trending to be a lot more accurate. So what we're seeing now, he says it's on par for what he's seeing and what he's studying, because he's looking at other polls, not just the Emerson. So he wants voters to feel reassured that this is accurate.
All right, we'll all find out together, right?
Yes, that's right.
Thanks, Tracy.